overall, first thing I want to say is I definitely had fun. Really think that the graphics, the sound, everything in that regard is really good. The UI could be a little bit better. I think like the menu, like where you're looking at your like your inventory and everything could look a lot like the items could be bigger. That would give them a little bit more of a feeling of like meaning and stuff like that. But aside from that, the look of the game, the sound of the game, and the feel of the game is all good. The druid resource should regenerate. That's one thing. And melee characters in general, they kind of suffer from the AoE from the bosses and stuff like that way more than ranged characters do. And of course, that's going to be something that you deal with, but at the same time, it's so extreme to the point where like I felt inclined to play like a barbarian that did a lot of bleed damage and thorns damage just because of the way the stuff worked. One of my big concerns is actually that it might be like so reliant on legendary aspects and unique items and stuff of that nature to the point where it feels like Diablo 3's set items and stuff, where it's like really cookie cutter and there's not a lot of variations of different builds. The characters wind up only having one like viable build on the highest difficulty level, and I hope that that's not the case. If they make certain adjustments to the game, that all those kind of things can kind of be relieved, for the simple fact that the game really is a good baseline for a great game. If they give it enough attention over time, keep making the right changes and adjustments and additions to the game in terms of content, then you know we're gonna have a really great game on our hands. But I really do think that the game's gonna be made or broke, like it's gonna be made or broken literally by the way that the launch goes. I feel like if the launch goes down and the servers are really bad, it's gonna hurt it really bad. I think another thing that would really improve like the long-term success is for them to just go ahead and open up trading. I think having closed trading is not the way to go. Something like that's gonna add a lot of longevity to the game if they open up trading. And then on top of that, I need to state again just how important the servers and everything at launch is going to be. That can really make or break it. People aren't trying to come home from work and then literally have to sit in a 60-minute queue. They're just going to give up on the game and maybe even refund it, because it's like the average person. And then what's going to happen is the game's just going to be a way smaller community, way more niche, and they're clearly going for a whole, like, they're trying to cast a broader net and cater the game more to a certain audience as opposed to like PoE or Diablo 2. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time they have to make sure that they also keep in mind that the average person's not going to be obsessed with the game to the point of wanting to wait in queues. The itemization feels a little bit shallow, at least early game. There's a lot of potential that like uniques and legendaries could essentially just turn into like set items from Diablo 3, and then it's just like use this item with this aspect, and this is like once you've tried all of them, and then depending on how many builds are viable at the highest difficulty level, you might wind up just being like, fuck, I'm bored of the game or whatever. So they need to make sure that they give it a lot of depth and replayability and things to chase after. And one could also argue, you know, that having closed trading gives you more things to chase after, but at the same time, they're also trying to cater for the people that are just going to get on and play for a little bit of time. So they're going to have to keep adding things. I'm glad that they didn't add rune words in they said that they had them like in theory and had them planned out, but they took them out, and I'm glad that they didn't put them in half baked, because it'll be good for them to maybe make like common items or something actually have, you know, like some type of value and use. I don't think the respecs should cost a ton late game to push you to make a whole new character, because I think some people aren't going to want to play through the story and everything all over again. Some people will, but if they're trying to cast the broadest net and please everybody and get like the most casual gamers and everybody, but also please the more hardcore players, people are going to want to get to make alterations to their character that they spent weeks or months or whatever building up. So with that said, I think that the respecs shouldn't be crazy, you know, even late game, even if you're completely maxed out, because it's like then you're not going to be able to really theory craft. One thing that I thought about the skill tree was actually that it looks a lot more complicated than it is. Like, it's really kind of basic, but by the way that the UI looks with it, it looks more complicated and like it has more depth than it really does, which I think is, you know, it is what it is. That streamer Quinn, he said that he thinks that you should have some of those legendary aspects and some of those things on your skill tree, and that might work. It just depends on you know, I guess that would make certain things like the reducing your cooldowns and different things of that nature on rare and magic items and stuff like that. It would make those a little bit more valuable. So I think overall my biggest fear is that the itemization might wind up being shallow. It might be really fun for a playthrough on every single character, but at the same time, is that worth your $70? To some people it might not be. To some people it's like, yeah, you know, they're gonna get X amount of hours of gameplay out of it, so they got their money's worth essentially. Other people are gonna be like, oh no, that's not worth it. I want a game that I can play for years. And you're not gonna really be able to tell that until the full game comes out and people get into the end game and you see that, or the game comes out and you see the way that the servers are, because I feel like that'll be kind of messed up and kind of disingenuous if, you know, they managed to get the servers actually under control during the beta. And let's hope that that's not like some, you know, putting on a front to impress people, which they definitely needed to do. They needed to have the servers working well during the beta to give a good first impression to somebody who was maybe on the fence even about like pre-ordering or just knowing whether or not that they were going to decide to buy it when it came out. I can see some people would maybe want to wait just to see how the launch goes in order to make a decision on the game. And I don't blame them at all. I wouldn't have made a pre-order for any other game just because, you know, making content for this game. Damn it, I didn't even get the leg. My only concerns are really itemization, servers, them providing good content over the long term in order to keep people interested and keep people coming back, in terms of whatever they do with the seasons, in terms of rune words, in terms of balancing and listening to the community about certain things, because the game has so much potential to be massive. I would say if you're on the fence as to whether or not you want to buy the game, I would wait until launch, see what happens with the servers, with the end game, with all these different aspects that are going to be pivotal in the long-term viability of the game. And then also ask yourself, you know, is getting like 80 or 100 hours or something, or a couple hundred hours out of the game worth your $70? You know, with the potential of it being something that you play for thousands of hours, is one playthrough on every single class not worth your money? I think if you're expecting Diablo 2 out of it, if you're expecting something like way more complicated like Path of Exile, then you're probably not going to get what you're looking for. All that said, there's still potential we could get to the end game and see the final product and be proven wrong. Let's hope for that. Everybody have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.